Welcome to the True Patriot podcast. This one is the 21st edition of the True Patriot podcast. In the past, we used to have online engagements without physical engagement with the participants. This is the first one, the inaugural one, which is going to be physical. And this one is exciting. Why? Because we are focusing on comparing the promises of November 2017 versus the reality of 2025. You understand that we are in November. It was in November 2017 when we were promised the jobs, among other things, by the current government. And we are here to try to understand where we are with regards to that promise and many other promises. And today, this conversation is going to be held from the lenses of the students. Promises were also made to the student community. We are going to have conversations with labor, conversations with the informal economy, conversations with peasants. But today we begin with the student community to understand whether the promises that were made in November 2017 were fulfilled. And if they were not fulfilled, where to? What is next for the people of Zimbabwe? And as the True Patriot podcast, we are here to counter disinformation. We are here to amplify the voices of the masses. We are not just ordinary media. We understand that when capitalists speak of free media, they speak of giving a platform to big capital. But we are giving a voice to the ordinary masses. The subalterns on this platform get a platform to speak. Ordinarily, people speak for them and speak of them. But on this platform, they speak for themselves. And from that end, I hand over to President Stima to lead the conversation from the lenses of the students on the conversation of the November 2017 promises versus the 2025 reality. Thank you so much, Comrade Stima. You can take over and introduce your participants.
All right, thank you very much, Comrade Obed. Revolutionary salutations, fellow members of the student fraternity, revolutionary acknowledgements to the suffering people of Zimbabwe. We welcome you all to True Patriots Media, and today I'm joined by three brilliant minds in this country who are coming from different tertiary institutions, and some are just but immediate past leaders of the student union. So I would love to give this platform for them to introduce themselves. So, comrade, you can introduce yourself.
A revolutionary comrades, a revolutionary meeting, and a revolutionary greetings, comrades and friends. Answering yes, Comrade Malema, who resides in Zimbabwe for now, but I'm a triple continental resident of Africa, Asia, and Latin America. Why I say so? Because we share the same struggles within Africa, within Latin America, and within Asia. So, comrades and friends, I welcome you to this platform. Thank you.
Greetings, I go by the name Tanaga Mugova, and I am a former SRC president at Women's University in Africa, and I'm here representing the girl child who has suffered in terms of receiving education and adequate knowledge. Thank you.
Hello to everyone. My name is Bridget T. Mambondiani, and I am a human rights activist. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, comrades, for introducing yourselves to suffering masses. So today we are here to discuss about the state of education and economic status post military assisted transition in 2017 after Robert Mugabe's 37 years of autocratic rule in this country. We all understand that there's been a conversation around what they termed the new dispensation. So we are here to delve deeper into it, whether it was really new or it was old wine or the same wine in new bottles. So we have very brilliant young minds here to share with us their thoughts regarding the state of the education and the economy post-2017 military coup. So I'll start with Comrade Malema. Comrade Malema, when you compare the situation today to the final years under Mugabe, can you say that the tuition fees, grants, and the availability of student loans is making it easier or harder for young people to enter and stay in tertiary education. Can you just briefly share with the students and the general public around that?
Thank you very much, Comrade President. But I think it would be injustice if I just start from there. But from the heads on of the topic, I think it would be prudent and satisfactory for me to start from defining what is disinformation first, because it is the thing which you are countering right now as revolutionaries. And disinformation, from its epistemological meaning, it simply means a deliberate passing of information which is wrong to the general public for the purposes of pursuing another agenda. Or some of you, or many of the people in the public may know is propaganda. Propaganda is part of disinformation. Because when we're talking about disinformation, it means that we're deliberately missing some information and you are spreading misinformation, the information which is wrong. So on that part, I think I've done justice. And coming to 2017, I've seen, people, we just past 2025, 17 November right now, which is the day of the 2017, which is 17 November, when the then president, despotic leader, President Mugabe, was ousted. But I have seen people, no, we missed this and we did that and so forth. And I was saying, no, in 2017 I was in high school. But being in high school, it means that already I understood and already I had an opportunity to be in that space. So thank you very much, Comrade President. But coming to the present topic right now, Comrade President, 2017 was about restoring Lagos. That was the coup. It was dubbed Operation Restore Lagos. But what Lagos was restored from 2017 was, even if to look from in 1980, when we gained our independence, we gained the independence when we were saying, no, we no longer want a white rule. But not only that, it was depriving our parents, our grandfathers, our grandmothers within the rural areas where they were put in reserves, and there were boundaries which were put to say black people were not wanted here. But also in schools, they were only what they called A schools where black people were wanted. But in 2017, Comrade Emerson Mnangagwa, with his lot and his like-minded people, said we now want to restore the legacy of Zimbabwe. But in terms of education, we don't see that happening. From 2017 to 2018, we don't see that happening. Because if you were to look in terms of statistics, we see that from 2018, when the now president came in election, which is said to be uncontested in terms of the SADC standards and the African Union standards, was contested. We see that in 2018 up to 2019, only 20% of the children who studied grade 1 were able to finish up to A level, which means that more than 60% of the students by then, up to now, were not able to finish their education up to A level. But also, if you move, we were confronted by an unknown disease, which had COVID-19. Am I lying, comrades? I'm not lying, right? So after COVID-19 came, and our education was cut, and some of us were candidates in those years, in 2020, 2019, from 2020, we were candidates of A level, and we were supposed to write our exams, but our exams were interrupted by COVID-19, and there were some assistances which came through, but despite those assistance which came through, there were students which were even affected. Because if you look, there were about 5,000 students, according to UNICEF, which were child pregnancies. And that was not supposed to happen, and that was not fixed. But besides the child pregnancies that we had, we also have students which were not able to come to school. Why? Because of the socio-economic conditions which were ushered in by Emerson Mnangagwa. Why am I saying that? We changed currency, comrades, from the ZW notes up to now. we now have what is called as the Zimbabwe gold. You know, we had bond coins, right? From bond coins, we now came to ZW. From there, now we have the ZIG notes. And all that didn't change materially and it transformed the lives of our parents. Because, comrades, if we cannot divorce our lives and our education from the lives of our parents, because our parents are the ones who are now catering for us since 2010, when the government of Zimbabwe said, no, we can no longer give grants and grant free education to these people, to this young generation, which is shocking anyways. But the thing is, from there now, 2020, from there, now we came to 2023, the number of dropouts is shocking. I cannot even start to mention how many percentages and start speaking about figures of the people and the children. And if I to look in terms of qualitative, not only quantitative, because if you look at the number of people, but qualitatively, which people, which students didn't go to school? We look at the students of the civil servants, that the students of the rural peasantry, that the students of those people in the mines, those people back there in Mazarabani, those people in Odisho, those people there in Gutumashingo. So now what it speaks is, what was the restoration of Lagos? What Lagos were they restoring? Were they just taking a button stick from Robert Mugabe when he suspended the student funds, when he suspended free education, when he suspended student grants, and he said, no, Robert Mugabe, you are not suspending enough. Now want to exclude these people economically. So for me, from how I take it, and I think this is the reality of the situation on the ground, from 2017 up to now, many people have dropped out of school, in universities. Many people cannot reach in terms of reaching their 5 O-levels to finish those, which are a requirement anyways. Even if now you want to be a school or a garden boy, they'll ask you to have 5 O-levels. And you cannot afford that because you didn't get that chance. So now, in terms of from post-2017, nothing has changed. Everything have remained normal. And even if you are to look at the affiliates, we now have what they call AMA 2K for AD, we now what they call Top Soup for ED, and whatever. So in terms of, you know, the now president, Comrade Emerson, came with a statement which is called Zimbabwe is open for business. But is Zimbabwe really open for business? Because if it was open for business, our parents would have been struggling in terms of paying their fees, which they've suspended anyways. And simply the answers that they've employed neoliberal policies, which may know we are not going to pay for social services. And the social services include education. So now they are now going to just repeat, and perpetuate and advance that. So in terms of education accessibility, nothing has been accessible from post-2017, and you will remain in that quagmire for now. And until then, if you don't do something, nothing is going to happen. These comrades are going to just pay a lip service in terms of saying, no, youth must be included, and young people must go to school. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Comrade Malema, for such a thorough response. I'm sure if I got you correctly, you spoke about the aborted liberation struggle when you said that what our forefathers went to the liberation war for is not what we are actually realizing. You spoke about not realizing any change from the Robert Mugabe era up to this present day. Instead, you mentioned that it even worsened from what Robert Mugabe was doing to bastardize our education. Emerson Mnangagwa is doing it 3 times or even 4 times forwards. So to you, Tanaka, you know, from what Malema is saying, we can easily acknowledge that the sector of education has been plagued by underfunding and, of course, curriculum changes for years now. But have you seen any tangible improvements in learning in learning and digital infrastructure, and also briefly speak to what Education 5.0 is also providing to this current generation.
All right, thank you, Comrade President. So firstly, allow me to talk about the curriculum change. So they introduced the new curriculum to primary schools and secondary schools. And in my view, I would say that curriculum is not effective as it stands. Why? Because of lack of resources. That curriculum requires digital access, it requires electricity, it requires internet, and statistically speaking, you find out about 40% of our existing schools do not have access to electricity. So how do you intend to then implement that curriculum without access to electricity? And then it also goes to the teachers' training. You find out that our teachers are old school teachers and they do not have the knowledge to implement the new curriculum. So I think there is much that needs to be done when it comes to that issue. And then I go to the issue of limited resources. I come to the existing schools that are in our country. They are deteriorated. The schools have been damaged. The schools are not in proper functioning. Why? Because the time that they were built from 1990s to the time of Mugabe until 2017, those schools were being maintained and they were functioning, if I can say. But during this time, the schools are deteriorating. And the number of students that are dropping out of school is very bad. And if we talk about the girl child, you realize that many of them end up suffering from teenage pregnancies. Why? Because the schools and the teachers are not there at school. And also the issue of financial instability. And then I'll speak on the number of schools that are existing. They are not enough. From this report that I was reading, it says that we need about 3,000 plus secondary schools to accommodate each and everyone. Because these days they have what they call hot sitting, whereby students go to school from 8 to 12 and others from 1 to 4. Do you think those are proper hours of educating someone if you really want to give them quality education? And then when it comes to primary education, we need more than 1.5 schools for us to cater for each and everyone, because you realize that the number of young people is increasing. Henceforth, the schools are no longer enough to cater for everyone. So before we start talking about the provision of education or the quality of education, we need the resources, we need the schools to exist. Not everyone has money to be able to send their kids to private schools. And then we go to the issue of brain drain. People are educated, but when it comes to the issue of employment, there are no jobs and the salaries. And also I was shocked that teachers used to receive about 2.299 salaries, and now it's 230. You get just the figure from 2,000, now it's 230. How do you expect someone to survive from that? A whole lecturer to cater for their families, that they also want to go to school, you are giving them 230. Then that's not even feasible. Then I'll also talk about the percentages of people that are moving out of the country due to that issue of financial instability, due to that issue of not having access to jobs. About 1,000 people leave annually. And also we have about 56% of young people that are not in education, not employed, and not in any form of training. So I think the situation is actually worsened. And in universities, now the focus is more on giving people certificates rather than giving them education. And the previous days, the students from the University of Zimbabwe, they wrote exams without being educated, but they're going to receive their certificates. What does that tell about our education system? So I think there's much that needs to be done when it comes to the education system. And we go to vocational training centers. There are very few to cater for every young people who's in Zimbabwe, and they've deteriorated. You find out they're no longer doing their practicals. Why? Because there are no equipment, there are no labs that they can use. And the Education 5.0, which was introduced, it is being said that we now have innovation hubs. But what is in that building? There is nothing, there are no equipment for these students to use. So I think there's much that needs to be done, and the situation is actually worsened to how it was. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tanaka, for such a wonderful analysis. I think from what you shared, I can vividly agree with you that our education system is now simply encouraging accumulation of certificates, the knowledge itself. The Education 5.0, which they spoke about, or which they are advocating for cannot come to fruition or cannot come to reality when we do not have infrastructure, like what you've already said. When we do not have computers in our laboratories, when we do not have enough furnitures in our lecture theatres, because the lecture theatres are the architectural platform of ideation, and HQ 5.0 speaks about ideation and innovation. We cannot innovate when we are not in a lecture theatre with enough equipment. We cannot innovate when we are not in a computer lab with enough computers. So coming to you, Bridget, I'm sure from what our two thinkers have already shared, we have seen reports on a rise in drug and substance abuse and the student mental health. I'm sure from what they've shared, we can all agree that it definitely leads towards that direction. How are the high cost of living, housing shortages, and the bleak economic outlook directly impacting the well-being and social fabric of student community today compared to before the 2017 assisted military transition?
Thank you very much. I think like where you started by saying that, as the previous comrades highlighted all the problems that we are facing, and it is of no doubt that all of that will only transcend to the young people. Zimbabwe is a youthful population, and hence whatever problem that we are going to, the people who are going to be most affected are going to be the young people. And like you highlighted in your question that there has been indeed a rise of drug abuse and mental health problems amongst young people. But again, whilst we are there, I would also want to think, is it an issue of the rise, or it's an issue of us being now more aware of what's happening due to the technological advancements and the nowadays passage of information and communication? But however, again, even though one might want to argue and lean towards that direction, the truth of the matter is that since 2017, issues of drug and substance abuse have increased, and issues of mental health have increased amongst young people. If you look at the current statistics from around 2020, you realize that approximately 57% of young people are suffering from drug and substance abuse. And of that 57%, we have got about 60% that have been taken to psychiatric awards and so forth. And then from there, you realize that 80% of that figure is young people between the ages of 16 and 25. And that's alarming. It literally means that we are destroying the future before it even starts. We are destroying the now before it even starts. Where are we going as a country? And like you say, all of these are drawing back to one problem, which is how our economic has shifted from 2017 and how it has given so much pressure on young people. I'm going to draw us back to reality as a student to say that apart from you having problems with your own education, your own studies, you are again thinking about how is your parent going to be able to afford that education that you need. Number three, you highlighted that issue of accommodation shortages. And that's been a real issue among students, which has created other problems. For example, we now have young people being involved in what they call semester marriages and so forth. And those are coming in as solutions to try and counter the other residential problems that they are facing. And what's worrisome is Zimbabwe is very close to, for example, South Africa. And if you look at them, what they're now talking about is having universities that get students that are proportional to the accommodation that they have, to the accommodation that they freely provide to their students, to the accommodation that they can reimburse their students for. But as for us, Zimbabwe, a neighboring country, we do not even have somewhere to start. If you even look at the infrastructure that I learned at UZ, if you look at the accommodation infrastructure that is there already, it's very bad. Besides the fact that it is not enough, it is very bad. And on top of that, there is at some point whereby we were paying more money for accommodation as compared to even the studies itself. And one would think, okay, so why not move and then look for external accommodation? That again has been a problem with those that are in the surrounding areas taking advantage of the situation and having ridiculous prices for these accommodation places that are around. And if you are to look at who are those people, it's not our parents. Our parents are out there in the informal sector being vendors and so forth. These property owners are the same people who are already in charge and having enough on their plates. But again, they are greedy enough to still also want to exploit the basic student. I then come back to how I think it is then clear from all of that problems that a student is carrying, how it would then affect one's mental health. And it's very unfortunate that in Zimbabwe, in as much as the civic society has tried its best to prioritize mental health as a problem, it's not something that our government has prioritized, looking at how much they're giving towards health. And even if they give that much, it still has to go to other provisions such as maternity care and so forth. So all of that now is coming into affect that basic student. And it is with no doubt that this situation is only getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And what we are then destroying right now is the future Zimbabwe. There would not be a future Zimbabwe to talk about if we are saying that we have approximately 57% of young people being under the influence of drug and substance abuse. That means already more than half of the population is destroyed. And if we are saying that young people these days with the mental health issues, in as much as people have said that the reasons why we have a high raise in mental health is other things related to Ama2K being involved in Mjola and so forth. That is not it. That's just something that we are hiding. But the real causes of that are the economic problems that we are carrying as young people, are the social problems that we are carrying as young people. We no longer have time to focus on our studies alone, but now you also have to focus as a young people on, okay, my parent is a vendor. I need to be able to also do a hustle that is going to be able to give in a little bit of something to assist them. And this, again, has also made us very vulnerable to other things. That's why now we are having, people going as desperate as saying that, okay, I belong to top soup for ED. What is that? But to me, it's a picture of how desperate we have become as young people. It's a picture of what this economy has forced us to become. Take a look at how young people nowadays, everyone is thinking that they've got potential to be a comedian. We are going to be a population of young people who are just trying to make skits so that by any chance somebody identifies you and lifts you up. It's no longer about education. We have normalized it in the streets to say, guys, your education does not matter. You can have your certificate, but at the end of the day, you don't know how it's going to be. So that bleak future and that cloud that we carry as young people is what has increased these rates of drug and substance abuse to the extent of it being called a national disaster. And it's also what has led to mental health. And my emphasis goes on, it's a problem that we have in hand. It's a problem that is increasing. And we all know the problem of it. We all know that it is accumulating from the economic situation that we have in Zimbabwe. And we all know that there is change that we need, which will become then the solution to young people, the solution to then the country itself also growing economically. Thank you.
Another round of applause for you. Thank you very much, Bridget. I think from what I got from what you've just shared with that is that we have a broken generation, but with just good pictures on social media. We appear to be okay, but when you're not okay, the issue of drug and substance abuse is prevalent, not only because of Mjolo, as they wish to portray it, but because of real social and economic challenges we are facing as young people. Thank you for sharing that with us. I'm sure before I give the floor the chance to ask questions and also contribute or subtract from what our wonderful panelist is sharing, I would like to give this opportunity to Comrade Malema to just share with us his analysis regarding the state of employment, unemployment or misemployment in this country. When President Ambuzo Mnangagwa came in, he came in with a mantra where he mentioned jobs, 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 jobs. So we would like you to give us a real analysis if there are more or less optimism now about finding a job in Zimbabwe, about Zimbabwe's former economy, than there might have been in 2017? Or is the reality still that the university degree is seen as a pathway to informal sector? Is it true that the universities are now producing degree vendors, or there's genuine employment out there? It's just those few who are complaining about unemployment.
Thank you very much, Comrade President. To answer on your question in terms of the economic relations from 2017 up to now, Comrade President, if you look at the people that are there in this room, to speak in vernacular language, pana zinafika junchara rap. Pana zinere ufika juncharana. Hapana. Tese takafika junchwarana. Marana ndwanani? Marana ma China. What are the Chinese bringing in Zimbabwe? Are they bringing employment? No, they are not. What they are bringing, it is dubbed investment, but it is exploitation in its reality. Why am I saying so? If you are to look in all Chinese companies which has flocked in this country, we see that where they go in mines, if you go in POZ, platinum company of Zimbabwe, in Goromons, the most sophisticated jobs, those which requires skills, they come with their own people who goes there. But we are busy with the Zimbabwe School of Mines there, which produces such quality. We have got University of Zimbabwe. It has got a faculty of engineering there, which is functional. We have got NASTI, MSU. We can all name them. But they are finding themselves being unemployed. Why? Because the economy is unfavorable. And when the 2017, which was adopted, the new dispensation, which had nothing new about them anyways, came in through the minister, Mthuli Ncube, introduced the IMTT. When you do any transaction, automatically 2% is taken from your account. Automatically, the IMTT. But is it the economy that you want? And if you are going to talk about jobs, we don't even start after you graduate. We go to student-related learning, attachment. How many students are struggling to find attachment right now? Even for those who manage through their connections or nepotism or corruption, anyways, find those jobs. If you're an engineer, you will be found cooking tea for your bosses there at your job. So in terms of the economy relations, in terms of students, we have not benefited anything. And now I have seen, excitable elements and characters within the government sector saying and quoting excitably the IMF saying, I know the economy of Zimbabwe was said to be, it was going to be growing by 6% next year. But 6%, are you only talking about quantitative, or are you also going to talk about quality? Because if you are saying the GDP of Zimbabwe is 43 billion, in terms of saying it is going to grow by 6%, it simply means 6% of 45. It doesn't change anything in terms of our suffering. Because also development and growing of the economy must be qualitative. It must reflect on us, which means that even our clothing must change. It also means that you must not find informal vendors there, degreed vendors there in Harare, in Mbare. If you go in Bulawayo there, with degreed vendors which are there. So what growth are you talking about in terms of the economy? What growth are you talking about? So we also need to see qualitative growth which actually transcend to go in terms of the people of Zimbabwe, in terms to go in rural areas. In rural areas, we see people who are in need of food aid. NGOs are now, they're struggling to say, okay, now that USAID is gone, how do we make sure that our mothers, how do we make sure that our grandfathers there in rural areas also find something to eat, to put on their mouth? So economy is not something which is fancy. It is not something which is bookish. It is something which reflects on our lives.
Economic relations simply means that we are living a life where you are supposed to get food, you are supposed to get a job for you to get food and send your child to school so that he or she can also get a job to feed his or her family. But right now, it remains a dream in Zimbabwe. So, Comrade President, what I can only say is from 2017 up to now, things have gotten worse because Comrade Mtulu Ncube there wants to tax this nation out of poverty. But you can never tax a nation out of poverty. You can never do that. However, as if that is not enough, they are giving tax incentives to those bigger companies. They are giving tax breaks to those, multinational companies, your Zimplats, your Deltas, your whatever you can name, those multinational companies and the Chinese pandemics. We can all state about the Chinese pandemic here. Those companies are being given tax breaks, and you can even talk about corruption. I think the Auditor General report does a fantastic job. It comments, it gives figures in terms of how much are we losing. We lose more than 1.5 billion annually through illicit financial flows, which goes through mining, the extractive sector, and so forth, and things like that. So that does not reflect an economy where we are saying we are growing. We are regressing. We are growing in number, we are growing in quantity, but in terms of quality and the quality of lives which are being lived by our people, there's nothing which is changing. In fact, things have gone worse. If you go in town there in Harare, if you go in rural areas, people are struggling. People are struggling. So, Comrade President, nothing has changed so far. The Emerson Mnangagwa regime, it is a replica of the Mugabe regime, which is a replica of the Smith regime in terms of the quality of the people, of the black people in Zimbabwe. So far, nothing has changed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Comrade Malema, for sharing such a vivid picture of our economic reality and the state of employment in Zimbabwe. You mentioned that we have big multinational corporations, actually foreign multinational corporations, who are coming here to Zimbabwe and extract our naturally endowed minerals, and those minerals are not benefiting the local people who have trained and moiled to earn a certificate in engineering, a certificate in mining engineering at Zimbabwe School of Mines, at University of Zimbabwe, at NAST. It's actually benefiting someone who is in China, because the gold that is being extracted in our motherland is being polished in China, therefore creating employment in a foreign land. So you actually managed to bring a clear picture that we are just creating the grid vendors. So I think I now need to give this opportunity to the floor, the comrades who are here present, to have questions or contribution or subtraction to this wonderful discussion we're having here, which then shapes the future of our country and what young people really want going forward. So comrades, the floor is open. Anyone with a question or contribution, you are free to raise your hand, and then we can make sure that you get to contribute or to question. Well, it seems as if there are no questions. They are all agreeing with what you have shared. So I think you can just give your parting shots as we conclude this session.
Thank you very much, Comrade President. We are all young people, and the panelists, there's nothing offense about being a panelist. I'm just being like to be in front of the people, and the people tends to agree with us, So thank you very much. My parting shots would be that, comrades, with all these problems which are confronting us, it does not now require us to be in perpetual, billboards of problems. We cannot say problems. We have been saying these problems. We know we have parties, we have been just proponents of problems, but without solutions. But now that we have, as the young people, we have seen these problems, it is now a time for us to offer solutions
and offering solutions, comrades. It is not something which is difficult. It is not something which is alien or foreign. We can always copy, comrades, from the Gen Zs in Kenya, from those, in Burkina Faso when they ousted the regime of Kambore, the Balai Saiton. So, comrades and friends, what we have now, it is a mission for us to see what shall we do with the Zimbabwe. And we are not going, it is not like it is a favor to anyone, but it is a revolutionary necessity for us to do so. So, comrades and friends, now, as we leave this platform, we are carried with the task to make sure that we free this country from the economic quagmire that we are facing. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So what I would like to say to young people that are here and those that are watching is change starts with you as an individual. Let's not wait for our leaders to make the change that we want to see. Let us as young people do the initiatives that will make Zimbabwe better again. Because if we keep we'll wait until we are old. So that is the message that I'm leaving to young people. And you should know that life is politics. Either you like it or not. Politics will affect your education, will affect your finances. So it's better that you take part and do best. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My parting shots would be that the problems or the pandemics of drug and substance abuse and mental health are a reality, and it's something that we should all be aware of. This is reality, and it's something that we should all work together, holding each other, so that we ensure that despite everything that's being thrown away, at least we can be in charge of our lives, in charge of our futures, and like she said, be the change that we want to see. I think that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, comrades, for your wonderful contributions and your way forward. I think this marks the end of our session. I thank you.